Second chapter is Network and Communication Aspects 2.1. Design Principles of Web Connectivity. Key terms are application and app. It refers to a software for applications such as creating and sending an SMS, measuring and sending the measured data, receiving signals from a specific sender, etc. Second is Application Programming Interface API. It refers to a software component which receives message from one end, for example, for an app or client or input. An API may consist of a GUI, graphical user interface, like button, checkbox, text box, or dialog box. An API may get input to or from a server or a user. Then it initiates action and may send the message at the other end. It also refers to a software component which enables easier development of an app. An API defines the functionalities for a programmer which puts the building blocks together to develop an app. A building block consists of the operations, inputs, outputs, and underlying types. Third is web service. It refers to a servicing software which uses web portals, web objects, or web sockets. Automatic street light with atmosphere change. Fourth is object. Object refers to a collection of resources to operate on that data. Fifth is object model is defined as the usage of objects for values, messages, data, or resource transfer and creation of one or more object instances. Sixth is class. Java uses concept of class which creates one or more object instances. Seventh is communication gateway. It is one that functions as communication protocol translator for provisioning communication capabilities. Eight is client. It refers to a software object which makes request or an API associated with it makes request for data, messages, resource or objects. A client can be a device or application on an network or internet connected web enterprise server or cloud. Ninth is server. It is defined as a software which sends a response or a request. It also sends messages, alerts, or notifications. The server has access to resources, database, and objects. Server can be on a device or can be on a separate computer system, not necessarily on internet connected web. Tenth is web object. It is the one that retrieves the resource from the web object at other end using a web portal. 11th is broker, which arrange the communication between two ends, like between the message publisher and subscriber. 12 is proxy. Proxy refers to an application which receives a response from the server for usage of a client or application and which also receives requests from the client for the responses retrieved or saved at proxy. 13th is communication protocols. It defines the rules and conventions for communication between network devices and between systems. The protocol includes mechanisms for devices or systems to identify and make connections with each other. It also includes for formatting rules that specify how data is packaged into sent and received messages and header its field and their meanings. 14th is protocol is a protocol that defines the rules and conventions for communication between the web server and web clients. It is a protocol for web connectivity of web objects, clients, servers, and intermediate servers or firewalls. It includes mechanism for a web object to identify and make connections with other objects. It also includes web object for formatting rules that specify how that object packets into it. They send and receive messages. 15th is firewall. It is one that protects the server from unauthentic resources. 16th is header. It consists of a set of words. The words contain the information and parameter about the processing at a communicating layer. The words are placed over a data stack received from a previous layer or create a new data stack for transmission to next lower layer. Header words are placed at the sending layer lower in the hierarchy during transmission and removed at the receiving layer higher in hierarchy after using the information contained in the header. 70s 17th is state. State refers to an aspect related to someone or something or a form at a particular time. State in reference to data interchange between web objects refer to an aspect related to data or resources or object received data particular instance at the server or client end. 18th is resource. It denotes something that can be read or used, written or created or exchanged or changed or executed, processed. A path specification is also a resource. That is this resource ID. Each resource instance has a resource ID. A resource is accessible using resource identifier. A resource identifier can be a path specification such as URL or URI. With this resource registry, it is usable after a resource instance is registered at the registry and unusable when not registered or when deregistered. 21 is resource discovery. A resource can be updated or can be used when an application uses resource discovery. 22 is a resource repository. It refers to subfolder, folder or directory which contains the resources and their instances. 23 is resource structure or resource directory. It refers towards structure or collection of resources, applications, containers, and groups which may have an attribute access, right, subscription, and discovery. 24th is path. It denotes a navigation path between two ends when accessing a resource. Path specifications can be of URI and URL type. 25th is URI, Universal Resource Identifier, is generally used for saved resources. 26 is URL, Universal Resource Locator, is used for retrieving resources by client. 27 is datagram. It refers to a limited size data which is equal to 2 raised to 16 bytes. It is used for stateless, connectionless transfer from a web object. Stateless, stateless means each single datagram transfer is independent of previous data interchanges. Connectionless means there is no need of pre-establishing the connection of resource exchange between the web object and no connection closing after finishing the resource exchanges. 28 is REST. Representational state transfer is a software architecture referring to a ways of defining the identifiers for the resources, methods, access methods, and data transfer during interaction. It also specifies the practices, constraints, characteristics, and guidelines for creating scalable web services. Scalable which can be used as per the size the architecture is used during the design of web software components, clients, and web APIs. REST also refers to usage of defined resource types with transferring the objects between two ends, that is URIs and URL. For representation of resources, it also refers to the usage of commands like post, get, put, and delete and files of MIME type. 29th is MIME, Multipurpose Internet Mail Extension. MIME refers to the type of files that are widely used on the Internet by web objects, applications, and services. REST 30th is RESTful. It refers to one which follows REST constraints and characteristics. 31st is UDP. UDP is the protocol and transport layer for the web using Internet and constraint RESTful environments core. UDP specifies the ways of enveloping the datagram by header words, which just specifies the ports and addresses of two ends between which the datagram transfer. 32 is hypertext. It means text embedded with hyperlinks. 33 is HTTP Hypertext Transfer Protocol means an application layer protocol for use of hypertext as app data transfer protocol. Client and server use the environment HTTP. 34th is hyperlink. Hyperlink refers to a specification of the URL for a resource path so that a link can be established between two objects. Retrieval of a resource at a web object by the other object uses the click at a link is shown on a display text on browser. 35th is HTML. Hypertext Markup Language is a language for creating a hypertext which refers to the text that embeds text, images, audio, and video image frames, forms, lists, tables, navigation links, APIs, JavaScript, and other codes for dynamic action. X36 is XML Extensible Markup Language is a language which enables creation for sending and receiving documents, messages, commands, queries, and creating of forms. 37 is browser is a client software which displays hypertext that enables navigation to the hypertext links shown on the user screen and which displays GUI graphical user interface of the apps, display forms, display server responses, and so on. 38 is framework refers to provision for a number of softwares, libraries, and a number of APIs, including those that can be selectively changed by user ports in applications. Next is Web Communication Protocol for connected devices. Data of connected devices routes over the web in two types of communication environments. The environments are constrained RESTful environment core. Next is core features of constrained RESTful environments core. IoT devices or M2M devices communicate between themselves in a LAN local area network. Device typically sends or receives tens of bits. The data gathered after enriching and consolidating from a number of devices consists of hundreds of bytes. Data adaptation layer, a gateway in a communication framework, enables the data of network devices that communicate over the internet using the RESTful software architecture. Devices have the constraint that the data is limited in size compared to when data interchange between web clients and web servers. Another constraint is data routing when routing over a network of low power and data loss. Roll network is a wireless network with low power transceiver. Device may sleep most of the time in low power and awaken on an event when required. Device connectivity may also break for long periods, have limited up intervals in loss environment, and have limited data size. Second is unconstrained environment. Web application use HTTP and RESTful HTTP for web clients and web server communication. A web object consists of thousands of bytes data routes over IP networks for the internet. Web applications and services use the IP and TCP protocol for internet network and transport layer. Next is features of COAP, Constrained Application Protocol. IETF defines application support layer protocol. Web objects communicate using request or request/response interaction model. Specialized web transfer protocol used for core is role network. It uses object model having single or multiple instances. Each resource can have single or multiple instances. An object or resource used COAP DTLS security binding with PSK pre-shared key, RPK raw public key, and certificate and UDP protocol for sending request or response. It supports the resource directory and the resource discovery functions. Resource identifier uses URIs as COAP. It has a message header which consists of following were 4 bytes: T message types, confirmable, non-confirmable, and acknowledgement and rest. TKL token length code request slash response message ID identifier 16 bits. Core communication is a synchronous communication over the road, easily integrated with the web using COAP application cross-protocol proxies. The access by a COAP object or its resources is done using the URI, a subset of MIME types, a subset of response codes which used for HTTP object or resource. Constrained and unconstrained environments such as COAP, direct and indirect access of COAP client objects to a COAP server. COAP client access for a lookup of object and resource using a resource directory, and COAP client and server access using proxies. List the features of a DTLS or functions of DTLS. Three types of security services are provided: integrity, confidentiality, and security. It refers to UDP for secure datagram transport. It is well suited for securing applications such as tunneling applications, applications that tend to run out of file descriptions or socket buffers, or applications which are delay sensitive. A part of DTLS is open SSL reciprocatory based on public shared key, randomly pairwise key, and certificate. LWM2M LWM it enables functionalities for device management in a cellular or sensor network. It doesn't depend on a call to system resource during execution, and so it is called LW communication protocol. Lightweight presently means data transfer for formats between client and server and are binary and has tag-length value called as a TLV or JavaScript object notations, batches of object arrays or resource arrays and transfer up to hundreds of bytes. Communication from an object instance using interface functions are bootstrapping registration, deregister, update its client and its objects, reporting the notifications with new resource value service and management access through the server. Specifications and features of LWM2M, an object or resource used COAP, DTLS, and UDP or SMS protocol for sending a request or response, use of plain text for a resource or use of JSON during a single data transfer or a binary TLB format for a package for a batch of resource representations in a single data transfer. An object or its resource access using an URI interface functions access using URI use of object model for the resources, and each object can have a single or multiple instances. Each resource can have multiple or single instances, and LWMPN client has object instances as per OMA standards. It is a client-server interaction are over the access and core network standards. We generally use COAP overall LW M2M device client and server generally uses COAP client server interaction for data interchanges. M2M management functions can be M2M service bootstrap functions for credentials of devices and gateway, and M2M authentication server for security root key data store and device and data authentication. List of specifications for OMA management object assignment are for multiple instances whether the rights are generated yes or no. Multiple instances case ID 1 for LWM2M server for access control 2. Second is single instance case ID equal to 3 for device object equal to 4 for connectivity monitoring. Next is equal to 5 for firmware installation update or actions after update, equal to 6 for location object. Second is query parameters. The assignment of parameters in the query is H endpoint name when registering in a domain, RT endpoint type, LT lifetime in second. Third is location object resource. It have single instances which are specified by an ID as follows: 0 for magnitude, 1 for longitude, 2 for altitude, 3 for uncertainty, 4 for velocity of non-static devices moving, 50 for timestamp. Then fourth is next is resource attributes. Attribute assignment is using an ID which is an integer for resource ID. Attributes used in auto observation are as follows: if interface description at initiation, at bootstrapping, URI it defines path RL for type CT COAP content type convert ASCII MIME type OBS observable boolean AOBS auto observable boolean response ports specify for creating successful registration and maximum lifetime of a 4 for a bad COAP request. tagline value format. First, two bytes are used to identify the parameter first and the fourth byte indicate length of the actual data which follows directly after these bytes. List the features of MIME multipurpose interface main extension and internet standard which is for description of the constraints of various files. It extends the SMTP format of email to support the text in character set besides ASCII and the non-text attachments such as audio, video, images, and application programs. It supports messages with multiple paths and header information in non-ASCII. Rector sets list 10 extensions in the list of MIME type dot doc dot html dot gif dot js dot css dot ampeg dot pdf dot exe. Message communication protocol for connected devices terminology. First is request slash response. Client a request or response message refers to an object client or client requesting for resources and object server sending the response. Second is publisher or subscriber. Publisher subscriber message exchange refer from a request or response. A service or a group controller publishes the messages. A sub messaging protocol, the provisions for publications of messages and reception on description, put and get methods by the register or authenticated devices. Publication made for maybe for measured values for state information or resources of one or more types. Subscription is for resource type or a topic. A separate subscription is required for each resource type or topic. Third is resource directory. It maintains information and values for each resource type and it can be accessed using URI for the resource. For this resource directory service may advertise, publish at regular intervals the availability of the resource or types of the resources available and at their states. Fifth is registration or registration update. Registration means a receiver registered with a service when one or more endpoints or device or nodes are registered. Then that device gets the access to the resources and receives published messages. Security consideration may require authentication of both ends before registration. Six is registration update. Registration update means updating for one or more endpoints or more devices or nodes. It includes unregistering or deregistering of one or more endpoints. Seven is pull data, subscribe or notify. Pull means pulling a resource value or message or data of a resource type by registering and subscribing. Pull may be probably using get or initiating observe. Eight is polling or observing. Polling means finding from where new messages would be available or whether new messages are available or updates are available or whether the information needs to be refreshed or finding the status if the state information has changed or not. Different state of information refers to a connection or disconnection. Slip away created align old values listing or updated with new values looking for change of a state at periodic intervals. Ninth is push data publish or subscribe. Push means a service that pushes the messages or information regularly. Put. Tenth is message caching. Cache means storing the data when available and can be used later on when required. Message cache is useful in an environment of short or prolonged disconnections of a service. 11th is the message queue. Message queuing means storing the data in sequence from devices so that when connection state changes, then messages can be forwarded in FIFO method for a resource type. A message forwards only once from a queue. Separate queues are formed for each resource type to validate this information or query. Client request information or a query by server responds by requiring to the query. The query processing uses a database ID resource directories. Message communication protocol COAP SMS transport layer 160 characters. It is used for communicating with GSM or GPRS mobile device drafted by IETF. COAP client tends to empty shortcut on COAP. SMS is a protocol when COAP object uses IP as well as cellular networks and uses SMS. A COAP client communicates to a mobile terminal and endpoint over the general packet radio services GPRS, high speed packet access HSPA or long term evaluation LTE networks using COAP client SMS protocol. IETF recommends that terminology are as follows: SMSC SMS Service Center, SMS SMS service provider, CIMT computer interface to message distribution, MS mobile station or cellular network functioning as COAP client or COAP server, MO machine or IoT device or mobile origin functioning as COAP client, MT mobile terminal slash machine slash IoT device functioning as COAP server. SMPP short message peer-to-peer for COAP data. SS7 signaling service protocol. UCP or UMI Universal Computer Interface Protocol or Universal Machine Interface for short message delivery contained in a COAP request or COAP response. Which the features of COAP SMS protocol. An URI used in a form of a COAP plus SMS parent address plus child address. A COAP message encodes with alphabets for SMS communication. Bytes supported as MM 160 characters. An SMS message consists of 160 characters in 7 bits. The encoding of a character maximum length of COAP message 160 into 7 or 8 bit equal to 140 bytes up to 255 bytes. It supports third is COAP endpoints have to work with SIM card subscriber identity module for SMS in modular in cellular networks. Next is it does not support multicasting broadcasting. RUH response to URI host or RUP response to URI port, which may initiating COAP client aware of the presence of the alternative interface CIMD and SMTP and UCP or UMI maximum string size permissible for RUH is 0 to 255 byte and for RUP 2 bytes. Default port number is 5683. Data interchange sequence are as follows: MS or COAP client sends SMS request command SMS under slash sub MIT to SMS center make a report MS COAP to SMS client. Second is MS COAP to SMS center report using submit reports. It is a command. SMS center sends SMS to MS or COAP server using command SMS deliver. The server report using SMS deliver report and parallelly SMS center. SMS sender sends SMS status report to the client. Authentication of a client by the server provides the security MS ISDN of the MS and SIM-based securities used during SMS data exchange. Dr- Next is MQTT list. Uh, this is XMPP.